Prior to this initiative, there really wasn't a collaboration, a sharing of information, nor was there a consistent joint policy among all the key actors, the judges, probation, the prosecutor, defense, detention, and community-based organizations. We now have a group that talks.
If you have the sort of structure that just asks people to attend a meeting every 6 weeks, you will not make headway. You have to look at this as part and parcel of the everyday work that you do.
So Judy had asked if we could include a couple of things about just conditions of confinement and other issues in juvenile hall.
Officers got to learn that social workers were good people. Social workers got to learn that cops were good people, and that most importantly, we always had the best interests of the kids in mind.
Once sites had learned to rely on data for policy and program decisions and had gotten the various agencies to work together, they could start to focus on aspects of practice. And the first issue that they had to take on was how they decided who would or wouldn't be admitted to secure detention and who should or shouldn't be in non-secure alternatives. And the way they went about doing that was to develop these instruments that were designed to make that assessment and to guide those detention decisions.
The risk assessment instrument gives points to a young person when they are delivered to detention to determine whether that young person should stay in detention or should be released.
Juveniles are to be released, not held in detention, unless there's a risk of failure to appear at subsequent judicial proceedings, or that there is a high risk of reoffense. And so that's what the RACE seeks to measure. The decision makers are line counselors who have a child brought to them by the police, and they deal with them based on how they present themselves, their history, and so forth. With the use of this device, we do not have a high rate of failure to appear, and we do not have a high rate of reoffense for these kids.
Sounds like there's something going on at home, but...
It's very informative because it's objective. It works.
One of the causes of unnecessary reliance on secure detention is the absence of effective community-based alternatives to detention that could moderate the risk that a kid poses of getting rearrested or not appearing in court. And in the JDAI sites, a continuum of program options was developed that typically included home detention,
Staying in the house? Yeah. You sure?
day or evening reporting centers.
Are you all telling me that you all have a conscience? Yeah. That you all have a heart? Yeah. That you all understand the way law is?
And some number of shelter beds for kids who didn't have a home to which they could return.
There's not that many people out there that's willing to just bring people off the street, you know what I'm saying, to keep them out of trouble, to help them with schoolwork and keep them from doing wrong things and not stand to do the bad things, but do the right things.
The WACA organization has been around since 1971. And we have been involved in a variety of community-wide issues and concerns. But always, number one above everything else, we focus on being a positive alternative for youth being incarcerated.
We became partners with Ernie Jenkins, and his decision to supervise kids in the community by bringing them into his center every afternoon and having all of his workers engage the kids in discussions really was the genesis of our Evening Reporting Center program.
Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it down for you guys, and we're going to split up the STDs into two categories.
The Evening Reporting Center meets between 4 and 9 p.m. at night, which is the high crime time. And we've got those young people involved in constructive programming such as tutorial, computer networking, educational discussions, community issues, teaching young people constructive ways to resolve some old problems.
Ernie's method spawned the development of similar centers in various parts of our county where the kids normally would go into detention.
We're very fortunate in Santa Cruz County to have several extraordinary community partners. One of those partners is Barrios Unidos.
What is Cinco de Mayo mean to you guys? I mean, besides an excuse to go out and get drunk.
Barrios Unidos is a group of folks who work in our community, come up to our juvenile hall and provide a lot of culturally appropriate programming for the youth here.
The work that we do within Barrios Unidos is trying to bring some hope into these institutions by being able to be there, to talk, to listen, to bring some cultural awareness, to bring some education.
They've made that connection while they're in the juvenile hall, and they then help them transition into their own community program in Barrios Unidos. They have a school-based program. They work on youth development and economic opportunities for young people.
Well, this is the shop. This is where we do our t-shirts. And these kids that work here, they've been part of our programs before and needed a job, and they've evolved into where they're at today.
Those individuals, those are our relatives. Those are the people from our neighborhood.